everybody. Beth here from Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know, and a big heartfelt apology to everybody over the last couple of weeks. Life's been a little bit hectic on the new job side, so I am alive, I am breathing, and hopefully in the not too distant future things will calm down a fair bit, and I'll be able to do these as frequently as I like, which is weekly as well. It's good to see everybody here. So this has been a very interesting topic, and there's a few reasons as to why this had been sent through. I'm going to sort of it was sent through about 2-3 years ago, and I actually ended up posting on Facebook the actual question, and I went to work, and then when I got home I looked at Facebook and my screen practically melted. So I thought it'd be interesting to revisit it because a lot of time has passed since then, and when researching it and having a look around and just, over the years chatting to other paranormal investigators about the things that really do, grind our gears when it comes to investigating possible paranormal phenomena. I think it's interesting that the other comments that have come through as well, and thank you to everybody who did actually send a message once I posted that this was going to be the topic as well. Again, use the comment section down below here, also here on Facebook and on YouTube when it loads up as well. Hi Cass, good to see you, lovely. Hi Therese, good to see you too. So yeah, this is an interesting one, and I know a lot of people know that I'm a big believer in pushing the positivity about being a paranormal investigator. I'm very much somebody who really focuses and chooses to focus on the positiveness of actual paranormal investigating, because we're doing it out of our own pockets most of the time, 99% of the time. We're volunteering our time, our effort, our money as well. So there are, of course, there can be so many things to look at that can be so negative and wallow in that. But then again, for me, moving forward, I always, as much as I can, look at the positive. Not to say that stuff doesn't bug me. It can light a fire under my ass occasionally, that's for sure. I am human. Get out of town. But the thing is, how I deal with that is another story, and that has taken years to do. And we'll talk about it because I narrowed it down to 3. That's right. I thought I'll narrow down for myself 3 things that I find frustrating as being a paranormal investigator. Hi, Kimberly. Good to see you. So yeah, this has been a work in progress in that regard. So I could list about 15 things off the top of my head. So I thought I'll grab the 3 that probably bug me the most. But also, as I said, I know there's going to be lots of nodding going on as well. And also, again, this is not like a bitch fest, of course. This is just, I think it's important to actually raise the frustrations of what it's like to investigate the paranormal, whether it's the fact that it's a field that of interest that science will never want to accept. And the fact that there are things that people are experiencing and we're wanting to figure out what's going on, but having people take it seriously enough for that, to be respected as well. So totally get that. Totally get that. Just 3. I know, Damien, I get out of town. That was the hardest part. It wasn't finding the content and this at all. It was actually trying to scale it down. So without further ado, first thing that I find can be it's not the most, but one of the things is the lack of knowledge that people may have when using equipment to help detect possible paranormal phenomena, or what I usually use it for is detecting the environment around us, because we don't really know what we're detecting yet, but this equipment is good to be able to see if there's any changes in the environment that we may not be able to pick up ourselves. Now, that could be 2 reasons. 1, the person's fairly new to it all and doesn't really know. That's fine. We all started from somewhere. Or 2, that person just does not want to know and is more swaying along the side of, well, I know what I'm doing and I don't want to know. I think, this is something paranormal. So we've all come across that a lot. Not really a lot you can do, but I think it's really important when we're on social media to find out what camp they're in when it comes to whether or not they are using equipment properly. and then of course you may say to me, well, how are you going to know if someone's using paranormal equipment or investigating equipment, properly, via social media? You can tell by the information they provide and what they post. And the first thing I often would say was like, well, how long have you been doing this? How long have you had your camera for? And of course, encourage them to go back to the suppliers and say, hey, look, maybe you can get some information on how to use this properly, because I think, say, for instance, the word orbs, So I might be using a camera where you can clearly see that they're actually dust orbs or moisture orbs, and say, look, I think this might be, what's going on. But hey, go back to your supplier and double check about the specs and all this kind of stuff. Really get to know your equipment, and you can get more out of it too. And it's quite empowering, to be honest. So yeah, people wave it around trying to get something exactly. But that's, as I said, most of the time it's from watching those shows, and it's not their fault. Hey, I remember when I was in England for the first year and I found an orb in a photo when I took one at a beautiful mansion in a place called Finchley. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be something. Fast forward 11 years, it's a very different story. But I didn't have somebody ramming acid down my throat about the fact that I even mentioned that. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes that can be too harsh for people, particularly in the paranormal. And that's why I also think as well, people who have that kind of experience will also shy away again from ever sort of talking about their the things that they feel that they've recorded or their thoughts on the paranormal. And they'll lean more towards people who, with all respect, believe just about everything that happens. And that's not a good thing either, because then it's not to say we lose people, but it's not always a correct way to investigate possible paranormal phenomena. So we've got to be as logical as possible. Yeah, one misunderstanding, ghost hunters calling themselves investigators. Exactly. That's another thing too. Good point, Kat. Very good point. There is a very big distinction between ghost hunting and paranormal investigating. And, investigating possible paranormal phenomena has a level of seriousness to it. You're more than likely going to be taking on private or residential cases. Ghost hunting is awesome. That's fine too. Nothing wrong with that. I can totally understand it, but it's more for enjoyment. It's going to events and just kind of going to ghost tours and things like that, and just having a general interest. And that's actually probably a bigger target market, a bigger proportion of people in the public that will actually prefer ghost hunting as opposed to paranormal investigating. Investigating is a much niche and much smaller group of people, but there is a very distinct difference. So it's very good you mentioned that. I have enough of paranormal drama teams should be working together, not fighting between each other. I totally get that, Peter. Well, you're leading into my next part. Thanks for that, mate. Paranormal politics or paranormal drama, as we talk about it now, for those who may not be familiar or new to this to paranormal sort of topics and things like that. Investigators and teams can be quite territorial with groups, locations, and with each other sometimes. They may see that one team's doing something similar to them. There's sort of a lot of it. Social media has a lot to answer for. It's great with trying to raise the sort of public eye for paranormal teams around the world, but it can also hinder a lot around the world as well. And over the years, for those who have been around, you'll see paranormal investigators sort of lose faith and face because of things they have done, and it comes out in social media and it comes out in public, and their reputation is completely ruined from acts of either fraudulentness or anything like that. Often it's fraudulent activity, but often that fraudulent can be lies, could be money and all sorts of stuff. So and that doesn't look good for us too. For the majority of us, who want to be involved in it, when that kind of stuff does get involved in the media, it don't look so great. So there's that as well. Oh, hugs to you, Jen and Jen. Good to see you. Yeah, we've, as I said, it's orbs. Yes, Kazev, don't very much orbs. The O word, the non-fun O word. So yes, paranormal politics. What can we really do about it? Like I said, I navigate in a certain way where I can pick and choose what I focus on, and I think that's really important. And it can be difficult at first, but I think it's really important as investigators to go, okay, that's someone's thing. Again, it can be very difficult if you do run a business and someone is trying to actively sort of slander you. That can be difficult it's another level of difficultness to try and navigate around, but still at least focus on the relationships that you've got with people and venues and tours and your growing group of regulars as well. They're going to be the people that will always be there because of the events that you run. So it really is focusing as much as you can on the positive stuff and reminding yourself, because we can do it. Believe you me, there have been times in the past where I've thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw this in. This is just getting too hard. And I know I'm not the only one that's felt that way. But I through thick and thin, I've chosen to be involved in it because it's not about how other people treat me. It's about how I'm able to contribute, and that's how I turn it around. So and that has been a learning curve. And I didn't come into this knowing that. So if you can try and look at it that way, what is it that you can help and contribute with? And also, surround yourself with your tribe. There is such a good community here in Australia. There really is. And it just grows and grows and grows. And we're all different enough to be able to work together. And sometimes things may cross over a little bit, but there is this really great community where people are like, oh, there's this team in Tasmania and they run tours, and there's the awesome peeps out in Townsville, and we got the great group in Perth, and if you're ever looking going there, go on their tours. They're awesome. It does actually happen. People do support other teams. It does happen. You just don't hear about it as often as well. Yeah, I find it a little frustrating how many people think that there are demonic things out there. Oh, Jen, you're just preaching to the converted. That's another thing. I actually didn't have that on my list, which is very surprising. Yes, if something is negative, then it has to be demonic. There can't just be a possibility, I'm saying possibility, of something just being negative or angry. It has to be something that is from the devil and demonic. And of course, we've got social media and movies and all that sort of stuff to worry about with that. I, again, will throw in another one of my side. It's not even part of my 3 that I'm talking about today, is people being very dismissive about Ouija boards. Now, I know probably people are going to lynch me by saying so, but, there's a lot of misconception where people who think that Ouija boards aren't dangerous have never tried one. I've used one more times than I've got hands and toes, and I've never had an issue. But then again, is it a mindset thing? I walk in and go, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to be okay. Or people who go in, they go, oh, something's going to happen, and they're already suggestible in their minds for something to happen. Who knows? There are people that swear blind that they've had horrible things happen for days, weeks, months afterwards. I mean, there's all sorts of footage on YouTube of people, opening up Dibbit boxes. If you've ever seen that one, that's been eye-opening, and not in a demonic sense, and more like a but yeah, I encourage people to go and watch these videos and make up your own mind. But yeah, if something's negative, it's not demonic. Dude, come on, get with the program. But of course, it's just education, and often as investigators, we'll probably find ourselves repeating ourselves a lot to people who feel this way. You can't change a person's belief, but at least offer information. They're going to take it, they're going to take it. If they don't, they don't. Oh, that's all right, Kaz, no worries. Yeah, how others react shows more about who they are than what you are. Exactly, that's exactly it. It's that's a big part of it as well. It's a huge part with investigating. Always keep that in mind. So there's that too. I actually had an encounter yesterday, funnily enough, on my page. For some who may know, there was a person who was very against the fact that science can actually help people. Science is more of somebody who's trying to kill people and conspiracies, which is another viewpoint, which is something I don't necessarily agree with, but I was back and forth with this particular individual. It's all still there up on the page. And yeah, apparently I was quite condescending, which I wasn't quite sure of. I was like, well, if you really knew me, that's the last thing I want to be. So it's not quite the thing at all, how I work. But yeah, people are going to come on and cheer you up. There are people that hate my guts, I know. And there are people that have absolutely tried to slander me and take my name down, and publicly all sorts of stuff. I'm not immune to it. I'm not immune to it at all. But as you can tell, do I talk about it? Up until now, no. I don't feel the need to. It's like giving it more airtime. I'm like, oh, that's your thing. Oh, that's nice. You've got a thing going on and you have an issue with me. Don't know what it is. Never done anything wrong to you, and just keep moving. And that's the only way to move about it. Only way to move around it. Don't give it the energy that it deserves, because these people will end up tiring from not hearing anything from you because you just don't care, and they'll just move on to someone else. And that's exactly what happens and has been happening. So there you go. I'm not immune either. I know people hating me, get out of town. And also, so another one as well. Oh, paranormal, need I say more? Oh, Peter, we need to talk. So yes, there's that. And of course, my third, so it was people not really knowing a lot about equipment. Again, it could be just an innocence with that, or the fact they just really don't want to know. Paranormal politics or drama, how to navigate around that too. That can be difficult, but it's doable. Trust me, it's doable. Well, thank you, Andrew. And footage review. Yes, that's one of my frustrations, is spending hours and hours of listening to audio and watching video. Can be like I say, eating a lemon raw. But it's necessary, and the only way for me to do that is have a cup of cement and harden up. I apologies for those who haven't been able to have I haven't done a podcast because I haven't gone through my evidence. Well, say evidence review. I don't really like using that word. It's more of a footage review. Evidence means that something's positively there before you've had a chance to listen to it. Another gold nugget. So that's why I say footage review. So I'm really far behind on that, so apologies to any of the people that I've investigated this year so far with. I will get to it. This new job is sucking the life out of me, and I'm planning to get it back. So anyway, so that's one thing as well. But again, what's the thing to get around it? Just do it. Plan it. Sit down. Pick an afternoon, even if it's 1 hour a day. If people get really busy, I really need to take my own advice. Just do it. Now, I know that a couple of other people, thanks again. Oh, see, Cat loves reviews. Damn it. I've just thought of an idea. Anyway, so a couple of people obviously have been able to private message me their sort of pet, I guess you could say what grinds their gears kind of stuff about it as well. Because, I mean, there is a lot we could all mention about certain things that go on. One person had said that having, going to a paranormal investigation, a public one, and there are people there that know each other, that's great, but then it ends up just being a social thing for them. And you're kind of going, well, I want to do an investigation. It's quiet at the moment. How am I going to, can we do something else? Like, do we all just want to have to sit here and chat? I totally get that. In fact, I've probably been guilty of actually being a contributor to that. So keep that in mind. That's something that can be frustrating for some people who are just trying to get into the field or don't have a lot of time to be able to paranormally investigate, and they go to public events. I mean, it's all good for community and chatting and stuff like that, but, these people pay money. And I've been there as well in the past as well. And in England too, a couple of times at first it happened, and I kind of felt like it was a family reunion as opposed to an actual investigation. So don't get me wrong, fun and friendly, but I want, even if nothing's happening, I still want to be trying. I want to try right until the minute they boot me out of that building. So keep that as well. Hi Matt, how are you? Yay, Blair, good to see you, lovely. So there was that. And another point someone had made as well was sometimes in public events, and it's harder because you don't have the same control, even with the last point I mentioned. There are sometimes mediums who use it as a training ground for their abilities. So they will be offering information all the time about which room, which here, I'm sensing this, I'm seeing this, blah, blah. Great, but public investigations are not training grounds in a public forum to tell people about your abilities. They are there for everybody. Sure, you can share information here and there, absolutely. And, often if a tour guide will ask how people are feeling, great, opportunity right there. But if you're going to keep going on and on and on, sometimes it can be very off-putting for some people in that group as well, because again, it takes away from the fact it's investigating possible paranormal phenomena, not there for a sort of on-the-fly platform reading. So, of course, when you're an attendee in that particular situation, it is quite difficult. You are at the mercy of the kind of people that are going that night. Even the tour operators won't know until the night occurs. If you've got a really good tour operator or the person that's guiding the group, they will actually guide this person in a way where it won't be as intrusive, but sometimes that may not happen. So keep that in mind. There are and people who have mediumship and psychic abilities have all great intent. I mean, they want to help. They want to be able to talk about their experiences and what they're seeing, and maybe they can help somebody there at the time, because a lot of mediums, in fact, I know most mediums believe that, entities and spirits will speak through them to them for a reason. So they need to voice it out. But I think there needs to be a balance with that, because as an attendee can sometimes feel like it's just, like I said, a free a free mediumship meeting by then as well. Yeah, a public event is not truly an investigation. I think there is some distinction needs to be made there. Of course, absolutely. But at the same time, it sometimes can be the door in for people to be able to start wanting to get into it more seriously. And a chance to be in locations that have had some activity that has been spoken about and recorded in some way. But yeah, of course, I mean, two different kettle of fish, private cases and paranormal public investigations are very different. You want, if you used mediums, you want them to talk about what's going on in a location, if that's what you choose to do as your team in a private case. You don't want them to shut up. So it's the other side of the spectrum there. So good point to be made as well. Yeah, Cass has said she's had that experience as well. It happens. So yes, guys, use the comment section down below. Be respectful. It's going to be tough, but I know I can trust you because you're a good group of people. But yeah, things that annoy you, things that are frustrating, that feel like blocks when it comes to investigating, that makes it harder sometimes or some days to actually be involved in it? Is it the cost sometimes with events? Is it sometimes being able to try and find a location or what to do in between investigations? You know, like, well, you know, it's going to be 2 months until I can actually get to the next one. Well, what can I do? And getting experience from going to public investigations, which is something a lot of people do. You don't want to get experience from going to private ones. I think there needs to be a certain level of knowledge and field experience to be able to, before you go into that, and obviously never do them on your own at first at all. As I said, I don't even do private cases on my own. I actually consult with other teams. I'd never do one on my own at all. You know, there's just too much work involved with data. That'd be a full-time job. But yeah, comment section down below. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I hope you got something out of this as well. I hope some advice there can help ease a few frustrations and situations. But do take care, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience, and I will see you next week.